Hi, I'm Joe Farace. Welcome to Joe's Movie Club. And we're here to talk about one of my favorite science fiction movies, Escape from New York with Kurt Russell. Before we jump into reviewing the movie, I want to talk a little bit about John Carpenter. I don't like all of John Carpenter's films. There's no doubt the man is an incredibly talented director. And certainly you can see this in every frame of Escape from New York. I especially like They Live. I really like one of his underrated films, but it was the big Hollywood film he did, Starman with Jeff Bridges. Terrific movie. You get a chance to see that one. Pick it up. It's a great movie. And one of my other favorite movies of Carpenter's is Attack on Precinct 13. I really like that. That was really his first film. It was a takeoff of a student film he did. It still holds up even way better than the remake. And it seems like there's always remakes these days that are never, ever as good as the original. What I don't like is horror movies, mainly because I really don't like horror movies in general. Halloween, I think I'll pass. The Thing, which every YouTube video pundit loves, not a big fan of that movie. I prefer the original James Arness black and white version. That is a terrific movie. I really, really like it. A funny story, when I was a little kid, my parents would not let me go see The Thing. It was considered too scary. And the fact is, you never see the creature until the very last of the movie, and he's on screen for a few minutes before he catches on fire. It's the least scary movie, but it is a suspenseful movie, and it's beautifully directed. It's beautifully framed. It's way better than the more horror-related version that Carpenter did. I don't like horror movies, and if you're wondering, you're not going to see any horror movies here on Joe's Movie Club, with maybe the exception of the classic Universal monsters. I'm a big fan of those. I have both the Blu-rays of those and some of the 4Ks on the first set of the 4K Universal monsters. I love The Mummy. I think that is a really great film. And maybe it's not the most traditional horror movie. It's still a great Universal horror film. I also really like The Invisible Man. And you might say, well, that's really kind of a sci-fi film. Well, maybe it is. I still like it, and Claude Rains' mostly invisible performance until the very end is extraordinary. But I really, really like the Spanish language version of Dracula. When I was a kid, I went to see the double feature of Frankenstein and Dracula. Was playing at the Ritz Theater in Baltimore, which was kind of around the corner from where I grew up. And at the beginning of Frankenstein, if all of you know that, a guy comes out on the stage and he says, "Hi, you're going to see this really scary movie, and so be prepared. And if you aren't up for the scariness, you better hit the road." I remember thinking, wow, this is going to be scary. And Frankenstein, I don't think is a scary movie. I think it's a great movie. And there's no doubt James Whale is a master of this kind of film. But I don't think it's scary. But then Dracula came on. And boy, Dracula did scare me. I don't know how old I was. I was a little kid. But Dracula scared my pants off. Later on, I discovered the Spanish language version of Dracula. And while it lacks Lugosi, who just dominates the English language version, the rest of the cast and the way that the Spanish language version of Dracula is shot is quite remarkable. And most times if you pick up a copy, a Blu-ray or the 4K version, you'll also get the Spanish language version. Since you probably already have seen the Lugosi version, I urge you to watch the Spanish language version first. And then maybe watch the Lugosi version when you get around to it. But I think you'll be surprised. It's a terrific film. And it's about the scariest monster movie and horror film you're going to hear me talk about in this movie club. Because basically, I don't really like horror movies. They don't do anything for me. I like movies like that we'll be talking about, and especially science fiction, which we've kind of beat to death on this movie club. And I consider the Escape from New York to be a sci-fi film. Now, interestingly, the 4K version was produced by Shout Factory in their Scream Factory division. I don't think the Scream Factory films are typically horror films. I don't think there's anything horrible. I mean, there's a couple of weirdo dudes in the thing, and it has an art direction that's very Mad Max. I'm trying to think. I think this came out well before Mad Max, but I'll look up and maybe I'll put something down here that tells you when Mad Max was made. Studio Canal, who did the 4K transfer for the latest version of Escape from New York, also did the transfer for this Blu-ray in 2010. And it was a combination Blu-ray and DVD. And you can tell, it open, that no expense was spared in putting a fancy label on this DVD. I guess they figured nobody was really going to ever watch it anyway, but it's there in case you want to play it in your car. 4K version has the same extras as the Blu-ray. So the big question is, well, do I really want to upgrade? It costs a little more money. I think this was $26, $27 at Best Buy. You probably can pick up the Blu-ray version online or even at Amazon for $10 or something like that. Maybe less, who knows? But let me tell you, this looks fabulous. Inside, let's take it out of it has a nice slipcase because all these semi-boutique companies like Shout Factory like to give you a nice slipcase, and I like them myself too. And you get 2 discs. You get a Blu-ray, which has the newer transfer, and you have the 4K version, which I gotta tell you, it is really, really good. Now, it's not perfect. It's because all of the exterior shots in this movie are at night because the whole thing takes place over less than 1 day. So most of it happens at night for whatever reason. And there are some scenes that are a little bit soft, but they're very brief, and usually they're not with any kind of dialogue or whatnot, but they're kind of like scene-setting scenes, and you'll say, that doesn't look so crisp. And it isn't. And I think that's because that's the source itself. That's the way it was shot. Now, Dean Cundy, who was a cinematographer, he's a heck of a cinematographer. I mean, he went on to shoot a lot of great movies, including the whole Back to the Future trilogy. So he knows what he's doing. And it just could have been the challenge. I mean, this movie was produced, according to John Carpenter anyway, this movie was produced for $5 million in 1981. I'll have to look that up, and when I do, I'm going to put what $5 million translates to in today's inflated dollars right here. The special effects hold up really well. There's no surprises like at the end of When Worlds Collide. Everything is really first class, and it was produced by Roger Corman's special effects unit that he put together for Battle Beyond the Stars, that kind of his take on Star Wars. It's kind of interesting. One of the extras, you see the 2 brothers who were kind of head of the special effects unit for Roger Corman talk about James Cameron. And one is not the most complimentary about Cameron. And the other one seems, they must have gotten along better because he was more kind. And there are a couple of shots of Cameron actually working on a matte painting, which was a big surprise to me. But anyway, the special effects look really good. The movie looks really good. And if you're one of the few people in the world who haven't heard of Escape from New York or haven't seen Escape from New York yet, it's a simple story, okay? Kurt Russell, he gets arrested for a bank robbery that is a cut-out scene that is in the extras. You can see what was cut out. He robs a bank. But at the beginning of the actual movie, as it rolls along, he's brought in to this prison, which was the whole island of Manhattan, because this was 1997, as it says on this thing, 1997, now. And Manhattan had turned into a prison where the prisoners were just let to roam and do what the heck they want to do. So he's being sent to Manhattan prison. And Lee Van Cleef, who doesn't have a very big part, but he's terrific, and every second he's on screen, he says, look, the president's plane crashed into Manhattan. We need you to go rescue him and bring back this tape. The tape is the MacGuffin. So you go in, get the tape, get the president too, you know, and bring him back. And along the way, he runs into a whole bunch of people, kind of like the Wizard of Oz. He runs into Harry Dean Stanton, who is the brain. He runs into the cab driver, Ernest Borgnine. He runs into the brain's girlfriend, who's portrayed by Adrienne Barbeau, who at the time was the wife of John Carpenter. And interestingly, Susan Hubley, who at the time was Kirk Douglas's wife, has a tiny little scene before the weirdos and the escapes from the Mad Max films grab her and drag her through the floor. Terrific scene, really. It comes out of nowhere, so it's not. Maybe it's a spoiler. If it is, I'm sorry. Then back it up and ignore this part of the video. And Isaac Hayes as the Duke of New York. Everybody in the movie is absolutely terrific. And the president, it's Donald Pleasance. Who else to be the president but an Englishman? So naturally, he's the president. And based on Carpenter's other films with Pleasance, they seem to like working together, so they bring him in to be the president. And he's terrific as well. So that's what the movie's about. Like I said, it looks great. There's a couple of soft scenes, but it looks way, way, way better than the Blu-ray. So if you have the Blu-ray and you're happy, you probably keep it. But if you don't have the Blu-ray, especially if you have a DVD copy, you definitely want to get the 4K if you get a 4K player and a 4K TV. The 4K is beautiful, but in addition, there are 3 different levels of sound that you can get with this. And one of them is Dolby Atmos, and the other one's Dolby 5.1. And I forget what the third one is. But anyway, they are all really good. But the Atmos is the default. And even though I don't have an Atmos system, I just left it on that. And the sound, I knew it from the first second. The sound is amazing. As soon as those famous chords that were created by John Carpenter in association with Alan Hartwath, who together did the soundtrack, it's just, I knew I was in for something special in the way of sound, because the sound throughout the film is really good. And when they get to the place where Kurt Russell has to prove his manhood and fight this big, ugly monster guy in the ring for the amusement of all these Mad Max characters that are in the gang of the Duke of New York, then you are surrounded by the sound. It was immersive. I could not believe it. You know, I've said before that King Kong versus Godzilla is the new one, not the Toho production. Was the best 4K I saw. But this is the best 4K so far that I've heard. It's just incredible. It's a terrific movie. It's a lot of fun. And, well, if you like this sort of thing. Now, if you don't like science fiction, you probably aren't even clicking on this video. This is a terrific movie. Highly recommended. You'll have a good day at home watching the 4K version of Escape from New York. As I mentioned in my last video, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, that it was a Criterion edition of that film, and that the Criterion sale was going on at Barnes & Noble, half price. And like a lot of people who are doing videos about movies on YouTube, I went out and bought some. The difference is, I don't have the budget some of these guys do. The YouTube is not giving me any money for this. Besides, I did wind up getting a couple of movies. Arsenic and Old Lace is a Frank Capra film. I am a passionate lover of Frank Capra films. I have a lot of the restored Blu-rays that Columbia did on some of his other films, such as Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. It's not It's a Wonderful Life. Don't talk to me about It's a Wonderful Life. I think it's the Cheryl movie. But Arsenic Old Lace is a comedy based on a play. And you get one of those fold-out booklets, and you get a nice little disc. This is a Blu-ray, not a 4K. My most dependable Barnes & Noble that has a lot of movies, and they didn't have anything I was interested in. I was really looking for The Young Girls of Rochefort so I could follow up the review from Umbrellas of Cherbourg. But they had one at the second store I went to, which is on Colorado Boulevard in Denver, but it was a DVD, and I really want the Blu-ray. Arsenic and Old Lace completes some of my other Capra Blu-rays. I have a real passion for his film Lost Horizon. Now, I don't think that Lost Horizon is the best film ever made. For me, that remains The Third Man. But Lost Horizon is one of my favorite films. And the Columbia restoration on that is a beautiful, I guess another one of those poignant movies that kind of gets to me. I really, really, really like Lost Horizon. And if you can pick up a copy of that, I would really recommend it. I think you'll really, really love it. The other movie I picked up is Wings of Desire. And normally this is a Wim Wenders film. And my wife and I saw this years ago, and she fell in love with it. Now, her taste in movies have changed. I'm not sure she will actually stay awake if we sit down and watch this movie, because her taste in film these days has to have certain elements. Car chases, lots of car chases, smashing into each other, gunfights, explosions. Man, that is her favorite movie. I'm betting $10 she's gonna fall asleep in this. This is a beautiful movie though, and look for a review of it really soon. It's a movie about angels. It's about a man who's an angel, played by Bruno Ganz, who falls in love with a woman who works in a circus. And along the way, he runs into another angel who's down on earth, disguised as a movie actor, and it's portrayed by Peter Falk, who plays Peter Falk, the angel. This is a really wonderful movie. I hope that you can subscribe or maybe check that like box, because that helps with the YouTube algorithm, and maybe those guys will let more people know about my tiny little movie channel here. And I hope they do, and I hope you come back for more. So thanks for watching. I'll see you again real soon.